Right, hello and welcome to this week's angling blog. Today you join me back on the banks of the River Ribble. We're in search of dace, roach and maybe, if we're lucky, Mr. Chub. Today is the last day of the river season, and to be honest with you, the river behind me for float fishing is probably the only one that I fish that is actually fishable. The River Severn, again, top of its banks. Things don't always plan out the way you want though, and that's fishing, and you've got to adapt and go with the venues that are going to offer you a day's fishing. So on the vlog I always say you learn, and today the fishing is very much not a certainty. There is big tides due at 11 o'clock and they're not going to get back down to the normal level till about 4. So what you're going to have a river now that's at its normal winter level dropping slightly. Around 11 o'clock we're going to get a big rise, round about a 9-metre tide, and then you're going to have the ebb of it from about 1 o'clock till the end of the season. So today's going to be a learning one for me on this river. We've come to the slacker side of the river, so hopefully as it rises the fish may move over to the slacker water on this inside of a bend, as you'll see in a minute. You've always got to have a bit of a plan, and that's the plan. With this being the last session of the season, it's a long 3 months, isn't it, that the rivers are closed. Pop in the sections below whether you agree with it or not. It's a topic that does raise debate, but it is a long 3 months. So I'm going to try my best to enjoy today, make the most of it, and it's exciting to see how today we'll fish. We'll go quickly over the setup and then we'll have a look at the river that we're going to fish today. Right, so setup for the session is my 14-foot Corum glide rod. Got that teamed with a Shimano Techian reel. Using this rod today because I'm not planning on going that far out. As I said, the river's due to rise with a tide, so I'm certainly not going to be going past a third to halfway. So a nice 14-foot rod. Starting at the bottom end this time, I've got my plummet. As I said, the importance of getting the depth right at the start, the most important piece of tackle you can own, a depth plummet. I've got 3 number 8 droppers on a 1 pound 7 ounce hook link, a bulk of Dinsmore number 4s to get the bait down in the bottom layers where I'm hoping to target the fish, and the float is a 10 number 4 dome top, again sandy bottom for pulling that bait along. The depth is going to change a lot today, so a 10 number 4 gives me a lot of options. I can fish that early on and have a lot of control, and as the swim gets deeper it's also going to give me the weight to fish the swim. So that's why I've gone with the 10 number 4. Let's take a look at the bait and then make a start, because I'm dying to get a rod in. But the first thing I'm doing when I come to the peg, I'm going to mix up some of the breadcrumb so it's settling, so it's ready for when I make that first cast of the day. So no matter whether it's the bread or ground bait, it's the first thing that I set up. And one thing with bread, you've got to be careful with it. Not too much water, because it's very easy to end up with concrete. So put some water in that now. I'm going to let it settle. It's got to the consistency where it goes together like that but breaks up. So we're just going to let that settle and we'll come back to it once we're set up. So side tray today, I've got around about 2 pints of Cheshire particle hemp, and in there I've got a couple of tares mixed in, around about 2 pints of red maggot, and I am going to feed that quite heavily today. Last time we were on here we had a lot of dace, and they do react to that stream of maggots going through the water. You can see there the bare minimum tackle that you need. So number 4s, some number 8s, a disgorger, some line and a hook, and you've got the bare essentials there for the day's stick float fishing. When I've come back to it after I've done the intro and setup and all that, just about to make the first cast, and as you can see it's absorbed that water. Got a few big pieces in it. I'm not going to put it through the riddle simply because it's on a river and I do want some bigger pieces. To that, just going to add some of the Cheshire particle hemp and tares, and what I'm hoping that's going to do is obviously carry some of that bait down in the water. It's not the deepest swim today, and during the session just going to feed little bits like that through the swim. So like I said on the intro, the river is going to rise, and with that in mind I've literally got the bare essentials on the peg. Bank sticks that can extend even higher, got my keep net well up the bank. Two things that are really simple to move if that river starts coming up, which we've got a good margin. It'll be very easy today to set up on something like that, nice and low down. But as you can see from this bit here, there's already been a tide this morning, so that's what it's covered. So I've set up on a peg where I've got the 2 bank sticks, I've got my waders on, so I've got a good margin where I can actually stay on the peg and fish. You know, shallow water at my base, and hopefully we'll be able to stay on the peg. The river does look good. You see there's 1 or 2 fish topping, so hopefully before that tide arrives we can pick up a few bites on that inside line, and we'll see how we do. But that's the peg. So I'm just going to start feeding the swim downstream. You see, not too far out. Just want that line of bait going down the swim. And so I'm going to put a bit on the line, I'm going to go down, but trickle a bit of bait on that inside line. So that river is going to come up today, so as it rises the fish may well move really close in. So feeding some of that hemp over the top. See, there's plenty of markers on the far bank. We've got them 2 trees and I'm lining up with the tree upstream. I'm just going to feed maggots by hand just upstream like that. Just begin to get that stream of bait going down the swim. The last day of the season, it's flown by as always. Let's make a start. There we go, we're into the first fish of the day. It's come towards the end of the swim, and that is a real confidence boost on this session really, because the river, as I said, is at its lowest at the moment. So if we can catch them when it's this low, then, you know, as it begins to rise, these fish should feel more comfortable in this water. Trying to do in these early stages is just to get into the routine of the peg, where you're going to get your bites, and try and get them fish on your line. That is the only thing you're trying to do at the start, is to attract fish in. They say it's a big river, it's a popular river, there's other people on the bank, so you're not just competing with, you know, the river to get the fish in, you're trying to draw them fish into your peg. And that is more where you'd be hoping to get the bites. As you can see, we put the hemp in line with that tree, and that fish has just come right on that line where we put that bread down and that hemp, and that is where we would be hoping to get the bites in an ideal situation. And that's the thing with Dace, you can start off with one and it gives you the confidence that there's a few more about. And that is the beauty of rivers for me. Every time you come, it's different. The river changes with the floods and the water, the fish. You know, you never quite know if the fish are there or not. And every single time you come a river, it's like working it out again. So hemp is one of them baits that does attract a lot of questions on the vlog. People pick up that I use it every time I go the river, and the reason for it is I feel like it's an excellent holding bait on a river for keeping the fish in the swim. Then maggots will be washing through and probably going down to where that gentleman is downstream. That hemp is heavy, going straight down to the bottom, getting stuck between all the rocks, and I imagine that it doesn't go too far down the river. The bread there to add a bit of colour, attract maybe some better quality fish into the swim, you know, if there's any chub about or roach. But it's that hemp that I feel is going to hold them fish in my swim. As you can see there, that fish has just come right over that hemp. And there's that dace. And as you've seen there, it just come right over that hemp. And hopefully gives an insight into what I'm trying to talk about. In my opinion, you know, that hemp is what is keeping them fish in that spot in the swim. And it gives you a point to hold over, you know, hold back over it. And then dace, hopefully, are on the hemp and waiting. It's a lovely dace. Let's get it straight back. And sometimes if you're going through without a bite and you've been getting a few, it's always worth checking you've got a maggot on. I think that's about 2 trots have been down, and I don't think I've had a bait on. And I imagine as soon as this season finishes that these dace will spawn. The scales are as rough as sandpaper and in mint condition. It's a lovely dace. Got that gold on its gill cover, orange in its fins. As I've always said, my favourite fish, the dace. Just hit a slightly better dace just down the swim, and the beauty of the power rod is you can swing a lot of the fish in. And although it's never really been solid, where it's been, you know, right on the hemp and a bite of chuck, it has been an enjoyable few hours at the end of the season. And when that tide comes in, if it does ruin the fishing, which it can do, there is always the potential that when this river does rise in a bit, that it can ruin it. What we've caught so far this morning has been an enjoyable morning on the bank. So the first sign that the tide's changing, all the dace in the net have all come to the top. You can see there. Now normally that's when a pike's about, but I imagine this tide is just starting to push and them dace are feeding it. It just shows there how the conditions does affect the fish. You know, if that's happening in your net, what's happening out in the water? This year has been probably one of the worst for floods. Actually, the only one I can remember as bad was 2010, I think it was, or 2012, and that was the year that I actually took up dead baiting. The rivers were that much of a mess that I went onto the canal with a couple of dead baits, and that's where it began. This year has been equally as bad, but this river has been a bit of a saviour. It being a spate river, it's been fishable here and there, where others have been a mess. And another quality dace, and it's looking like a nice end to the season with bites coming regular now. And a nice change from the dace, a little small perch. So shortly after catching that dace, the river really did rise. As you can see on screen now, the difference from when we started, you can see the river has filled the bank to the left, and as I said at the start, you didn't want to be sat on that tuft that we said at the very beginning. The fishing went from strength to strength. Them quality dace really did come on the feed, and as that river began to rise, quality dace after quality dace come to the net, and it was an enjoyable last few hours on the bank where the fish really did go hard on the feed, feeding them balls of bread and the Cheshire particle hemp over the top, and keeping that maggot going in kept the bites coming. So on the day I was joined on the bank by my uncle and a friend that we'd met recently on the bank, Gary, who's got his own YouTube channel. I'll put a link in the description below. We checked out each other's nets and we'd all had a fantastic day on the bank, getting plenty of bites. The time come for me to bring my net out, and it was one of the best nets of the season. A £35 net of quality Dace on the last day of the season. An enjoyable day on the bank with good company, a perfect way to end the season. The next clip you're going to hear is what I recorded right at the very end. As you know now, this vlog's going out at a time when we're all in the house and in lockdown, and this clip just shows what a different world we lived in only 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when this vlog was recorded. All them hopes and aspirations that us as anglers have are recorded in this clip, and just how different the world is that we live in now. Hope you'll all stay very safe, tight lines in your own fishing, and I'll catch us all next week. Tight lines. So an enjoyable last hour or two on the river, which is going to be the last for them 3 months. For myself, it gives me a chance to do other things, carp, tench. I like trips out with my daughter and stuff like that are going to be coming to the channel soon. But drop a comment below what your plans are for the close season and what your targets and hopes and aspirations are. It'd be great to hear what you'll be doing in the close season. But that's a end of season Dace going straight back.